Out tonight to the All-Good City Council meeting, special call meeting for our budget this fiscal year. We'll start with roll call.
Honorable Mayor Bilbrey.
Present.
Honorable Vice Mayor Dyer.
Present.
Honorable Councilwoman Norris.
Present.
Honorable Councilman Hurd.
Present.
Invocation. David, would you lead the invocation for us, please?
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we're thankful for today and all the blessings that we enjoy. We're grateful we live in a country where we can express ourselves and where we can govern ourselves and where we can elect those who think best serve us. Father, we ask your blessings upon this meeting and the proceedings here. Forgive us of our shortcomings and failings and sins. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance by Richard Woods.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item is consider agenda and the minutes. We're going to consider approval of the agenda as presented. I think everybody's had a chance to look at that. Is there any discussion?
So moved.
Okay. Motion second on the floor. Roll call.
Mayor Bilbrey.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Dyer.
Yes.
Honorable Norris.
Yes.
Honorable Hurd.
We have no other items under old business. That brings us to our new business agendas. And the floor will now be open for discussion for the fiscal year 17-18 budget. Is everybody had a chance to look over what we've already covered so far? Is there any discussion brought to that? Okay. I can find my location. Where do we get started?
Sanitation expenses.
Sanitation.
Picking up tonight.
All right. Somebody want to kick that off?
Let's start by asking Keith, we're talking about a rate change in our commercial garbage pickup, and of course we've budgeted for a vehicle and things like that. How's that going to factor into our sanitation budget, Keith?
Looking at changing the pickups to $15 and the rentals to $50, just those two alone. Running our numbers from last year for rentals and pickups would have increased the commercial sanitation intake by $26,000. This year through March, looking at those same numbers and what we've done so far, it would have increased commercial sanitation intake by $18,000. Cost of the truck's roughly $330,000. So assuming you can increase by 26 to 30,000, you're still at about 10 years to pay for the truck. Figuring that into the expenses and looking at what we have to take in.
Do we have any indication that the county may go up on tipping fees for municipalities, or?
I haven't had any indication of that, so I'm assuming at this time that's a no. But
I know
that could always
that'll
change.
factor in, especially, once the county passes their budget, whether or not they decide to do that, or
Right.
if they decide to do it, so.
When looking at the top part, we start with the overtime salaries. Those seem to pretty much be in line with previous years.
I don't think those are out of line. We should pretty well stay on target with those.
Yeah. What type of raise are we looking at for the employees?
That pay scale that I put in your packets, that was in your packets was in there. Giving us
3%.
1%.
It's given a baseline to starting pay and a graduated increase through 10 years. Unless you all want to do away with that and go back to 1.5%. It was a baseline. I gave it to you, I don't know, 3 or 4 months ago and told you that was what we were looking at for the pay scale, and you all said you would look at it.
I must have overlooked it. I didn't see that.
Yeah, email it to us.
Yeah, it's been in your packet probably 2 or 3
Okay.
times now, so
Okay.
I can send you another copy.
Yeah, send another copy, but you're looking at that, and what percentage does that come out? It's kind of like a step raise. You know, we talked
We
about
did.
that before.
Right.
It's a step raise.
Right.
It's not really I didn't look at percentages. We tried to look at what we needed as starting pay, and then do a gradual increase until it topped out at 10 years.
So our starting pay for our employees are lower than everybody else's
It
around?
appears to be. It's hard to tell because there's so many different factors in the city numbers. A lot of numbers we looked at, we were less than the areas around us, yes.
Okay.
One of the issues too, especially with Public Works, is all of those employees start at $10 an hour. We need more commercial driver's license, so to be able to offer an incentive of a little bit higher starting pay for someone who has a commercial driver's license versus someone who doesn't, I think would help us down the road too.
What about the employees that we already have? Why can we?
Well, that would be figured in to account for their years of service to give them those step raises and get them in that system as well.
Okay. Well, if you have more training, I guess you should be paid more for that,
Right.
if we're below the normal thing, so, from what everybody else is. And that takes in consideration, just email that to us and we'll look
I'll
at
send it
that.
to
We'll
you.
bring that, I'll set that aside right now until we get to that point.
Well, while we're on it, I would like to advocate for this city to begin a pay scale type of payment for all employees. I think it puts us in line with everybody else. It also gives us a better idea of our cost of doing business as far as employee wages and benefits are concerned. It'll make it easier, I think, also to do these budget requests as far as employees go in the future, if we have that scale in front of us to go
You know
by.
what it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's them. That's what I'm getting. This is the
Okay.
one you looked at a couple months ago when you said that.
That's right, I did see that. I did see that. They look. more
Yeah,
like
I've
that.
seen it,
Yeah,
but I'll look at
okay.
it again.
Yeah, I will. We'll get copies before we leave
Okay.
tonight, to look at that. So just looking here. So we start our sewer, as a general laborer, is that what you started? Because that's. the
Currently,
lowest.
all of them start at $10 an hour in the shop, so.
Okay, all righty. All right.
Irregardless of what they're assigned to, whether it's public works or sanitation or whatever.
That's right. And
Okay,
for the
I'll
most
start.
part, they're not really assigned to a specific department. They all do a little bit of everything. I
Right.
mean,
So when we look at this to see where we're at, how you figuring for the next step from here? Is this the step right here you're looking at?
yeah, those are
1 through 10?
1 through 10, so year 0 and then up to year 10. And then each employee we currently have, I took the rate they were at and looked at the scale and fit them to the scale. So from here on, they would follow the scale to the T.
So if they fit at 5, the middle of the scale, they'd start there and go to
Right.
10. And after 10 years, what do you
After
think?
10 years, you would only get
That 1.5%?
1.5 if you all offered it that year. So,
1.5%.
And that would
Right.
be on a year-by-year basis. of
right,
course.
from then on, if they topped out on the scale, they wouldn't get anything unless you all offered an increase with the
Most
budget.
cities do offer that 1.5.
Every so
Most
often,
states.
they'll up it to 1.5, and some years they don't do it. It just depends. So,
Okay. All right. We'll get copies of that for, do you need
I
it?
still got
You
mine.
got yours?
Still got
Okay.
mine.
All righty. All right. Coming on down the line, and the retirement fund. We'd had some discussion up here about that. Keith, let everybody know what you're looking at and the other council members in case they didn't.
we've looked at the retirement fund. There's been some talk of changing the retirement to a 5% match. There was discussion on that could be done on all new employees and leave the others where they're at. there's talk of talking to the state of Tennessee and seeing what options are available. There are some options that the state can help us navigate through, as well as calling Principal, our current company, to see what things can be done and what's offered that won't be detrimental to our employees.
Well, I didn't understand till just the other night that we don't really have a retirement company. We have more of a fund, is that right?
That's what somebody said. I've got to check on that. It's not like TCRS, I don't think, where you work 30 years and then you can retire. Unless I'm misunderstanding it, I think you still have to work to age 65 for this to kick in, regardless of how many years service you got. But that's something I need to check on for sure.
So it's a 401k type?
It is. It's
A
a
Roth or something?
I mess it up every time. It's called a money pension plan or money purchase plan. It's an older plan that can't be, they don't exist anymore. So
Huh. Well, is that a good thing for us or a bad thing?
I'm not really sure on that one.
We should probably find out. Money market plan?
It's either, it's a money pension or money
Money
purchase
pension.
plan.
Okay.
Money market would be what you'd put money in
Yeah.
for the city, but
Mm.
it's one of those two. I'd have to look and be sure, but
Well, let's set that aside till we can get the right information coming in.
Has this always been like that, Keith?
it was voted in 1982. Plan started January of 1983. And so it's been that way since 1983. And that was the plan they kicked in when they started offering a retirement plan for city employees. I don't know all the exact details on it. I know the vesting is 5 years. I know the city puts in 10% toward the plan. If an employee leaves prior to 5 years, then the money that was put in for that employee apparently gets divided among whoever other employees are here at the time and stays in the plan somehow. I
Here's
don't know.
A money purchase plan is a type of defined contribution plan that is similar to a profit-sharing plan, except that the contribution amounts are fixed rather than variable. Thus, employers are required to make annual contributions to each employee's account regardless of the company's profitability.
So we're held into that the way it is then.
That's a good plan for employers, sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a win situation for the employees. We just want to make sure that we're fair to both sides. Okay, so you're going to continue to try to.
We're
find-
working on that. We can't change it till January of 2018 anyway.
Right.
So there's not really anything we can do at a sudden moment. But
Okay.
we can review some options.
Okay. Coming down in that, we've got, looks like employee education and training. We don't have anything there.
Keith, I'm looking to residential truck repair line item there from what we're gonna budget this year as opposed to what was budgeted.
In 15-16, we had to put a lot of work into the rear end of that truck. It had some issues.
Right.
And so to make sure we didn't have any further issue, we put a little extra money in there to cover any additional repair. We've cut it back this year. Just still have, we have to keep brakes on that. Tony, that's about every 5 months that we're having to put brakes all the way around the truck. It's just, and I've checked around. I called Pigeon Forge. They run the same truck we do. And he said the exact same thing. He says you might as well keep brakes on the shelf because every 5 months you're going to be putting them on it. And so
Simply because of the weight and the speed and everything. Yep.
it's a single axle truck. You're stop and go constantly through the route. And then sometimes Tony may not go a couple feet before he's stopping at the next can because you got to line the truck up with a can. So that it's a lot of start and go. We're hoping that we don't need that much, and this year we haven't done too bad. It's been fairly good year, so we're hoping to maintain that status, but I don't want to risk it too much. I mean, we could cut a little bit off there if we needed to. I did cut the commercial truck repair to $3,000, assuming we might need a little bit if we're going to order this new truck, if something was to happen before it got here. After that number should go way down.
Landfill charges, we got no control over that. How's that running? I mean, is it,
I think we're gonna be pretty well in line, depending on how much rain we get and how much heavier the cans get. And, if anybody calls for extra pickup, and if Doc doesn't throw away a lot of extra stuff, we might cut it down.
Well,
Just kidding,
again,
Doc.
those tipping fees too that the county
Yeah.
sets, you know, we're kind of bound by those too, so we don't know exactly what they're gonna do till their budget gets back.
No, and it was it's been kind of a dry year prior to
Right.
now, and so that keeps a lot of the weight down.
looking at operating supplies, when we look at previous years, 13-14 was, it's like 4,400. When we're looking at 14-15, we're 79 or 75, I can't really tell there. And then we go back to the 15-16, we're at 41. And now, actual, we went way over on that. What's the reason for that?
Having to replace commercial dumpsters. A lot of the dumpsters that we rent, the bottoms have fell out, and we've had to buy replacements.
Okay.
And that was one of the reasons for increasing rental rates. Currently, at our current rental rate, it takes us about 22 and a half months to recover the cost of a dumpster. At the new rate, that would cut it to about 18 and a half months, so about a half a year quicker. Without,
What are we having to pay per dumpster, Keith?
they're running a little over $800 a piece. And that's piggybacking off of another bid, so.
Tires and tubes, when I look at those, Victor had said something about needing tires for different vehicles. Is this gonna be a budget we have to adjust this to get the tires that he needed? Because we gave him more the last time than what he asked for because of that.
Was that, I believe that was on the,
It's on the brush truck.
that was on
Tony,
the brush
are
truck.
you gonna need any tires? I think the residential truck's in good shape. Again, if we get this new commercial truck, it'll have all new tires.
Right.
The plan is, if you all stick with purchasing this commercial truck, is to keep the automated residential and get rid of the backup residential and the old commercial truck, and sell those two off to the highest bidder.
Okay.
And I think, there's still a little bit of value in those, because there's a lot of cities looking to buy used trucks or companies, so I think somebody will buy those.
So that would return back to general fund,
That would
correct?
return back to general fund.
Okay.
No, I don't know what number to throw out there. I don't know. I know I would anticipate at least maybe 10,000 apiece off of those trucks. Hopefully a little more.
All right. And the commercial truck, I see that's in capital outlay,
Yes,
at 330,000.
yes.
Is that the truck that we need?
That is a commercial truck. It has the Corrado can where it will do residential too, if we choose to go that route, and it would cover both routes, assuming it will fit every street we have. What that truck would do is eventually you would be able to get to where you could have the automated residential and commercial on a replacement plan together, and always have a backup, and you wouldn't have to have so many trucks sitting around.
Okay.
Would this be a bigger truck than what we got here?
It would be bigger than the residential truck. I don't know if it's bigger than the current commercial, is it? It may be. I'm
Will
not
there
sure.
be any issue width-wise getting down streets or anything? I know probably turning some corners. Yeah.
Come on up here and it'll record.
There's a few streets that it probably won't go down. I could probably get down there, but getting out would be
Right.
that'll be another thing. Up on Fourth Avenue, back in your,
Oh, yeah.
there's no way I could get it in there, cause I'm having a hard time turning the residential around back there now.
I was thinking about some of the streets actually over toward the shop, the tight
Yeah,
corners and making those
there's
cuts.
some, those streets I'm not really worried about, but there's a few that it'll never go down.
Well, why did we decide on this truck if we've got streets? I mean, I'm just asking, why did we go with this truck? Is there a different truck? And I know you're not the department
It's a
head.
different truck, and we went and looked at it. It seemed to run good, but it was in cool, and on our streets, I don't know, the majority of our streets it would probably go down, cause like years ago, when our residential truck tore up, we had to use the commercial truck. We had a dumpster that we put on the front of it, and we had to ride the front of that thing. And what Roger would do, we'd fill it up, and we'd find where the power lines wasn't, and then we'd dump it. But now, and it's a nice truck, but
It's too big.
it's too big for some of the streets we got.
Okay.
Victor likes it, and it would last us a long time. Should we consider getting a smaller truck?
We need something we can get down the street with. I mean, and, you know, I'm just saying, and I'm not gonna put you in a bad spot, because
Right,
this is your department head that
Right.
chose this, and I guess Keith
Right.
as well.
right.
I
One
don't
of the
wanna-
reasons for picking this too was to have a backup truck that was automated. The backup truck now for residential, if you don't get this, we're gonna have to keep, and then they have to ride on the back
Yeah,
of it
that
and
we'll-
roll
we'll-
the can
we'll
to
have to
it.
keep that. We'll have to keep that.
So that was the other
old
option.
residential.
Now, and Tony and I talked about
Yeah.
taking the commercial truck with a dumpster and riding some of the route and see.
And just, you know,
Um,
spot checking, but there's a few streets that I know I can't get down, but then like I say, you know,
So it's in Cookville?
that's where the truck
truck
was, we went
is?
and.
No,
watched it. I
they
rode
brought
it.
a test truck in.
Yeah, they
Oh,
brought it,
just
just
a
a
demo.
test truck.
Should we get the test truck, drive down these streets and see what we think?
It's
Well,
a possibility,
yeah,
and
we
then
could- we could-
one of the other options too is that you're gonna keep the residential automated truck that we have now. If Tony decides, you know, there's certain streets that we can't work, we can work that route to where that other truck could pick them
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And the other
That's not
truck
a
get the
big route.
majority of it, so, I
There's
mean,
a-
we can tweak it. And one of the benefits too was, you know, and Tony and I talked about that Ken, if he gets a call for a commercial pickup, an extra
Yeah.
one, and he's running residential,
You can, yeah.
he
you
can just
unhook
drop
it.
that can right next to the dumpster, back out of it, pick up the commercial, and then go back
Yeah.
in and grab that Corrado can back and go right back to residential route.
What about that grant to go pay, you know how some cities like Franklin and Athens, Georgia, they'll have paper, plastic, and trash.
Right.
Yeah, we
And you
talked about
mentioned that.
that.
We've worked on it, and
That's a lot of
I set it
pickups.
off because we needed the commercial dumpsters so bad this year. We had so many going bad. Our plan was to buy about 1,000 or 1,000.
It's a lot of more work, isn't it?
100 cans. Well, what we were gonna try to do is take about 100 cans and do a test neighborhood and see, and run a different day for what was recyclable, and do what they call a single stream in the recycle can, to where everything that's recyclable goes in one can that's
Oh, that's
green,
right, that's right.
that has our seal and it says recyclables. And then the other can be the regular trash route. And that was one thing Tony and I talked about, is we think eventually you would get those tweaked to where you could run one route every you know, whichever one's filling up the most, run it more frequently, and the other one just every so often. The benefit to the recyclables is there's no tipping fees. So if we can use that to our advantage, then we cut our tipping fees back.
Cause a lot of the majority of my garbage is a lot of bottles and paper.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of it is, there's quite a
Man.
bit of bottles.
And the Clean Commission had offered to do some classes and, you know,
We
some,
should take advantage of that.
seminars
There's a
to-
grant involved.
well, and I looked at the grant. The problem with the grant is you've got to buy like so many cans that it wasn't gonna pay us to do it up front, because there was no way to test it. It was just either you're all in or you're not, and we weren't ready for that yet. And the
Can you talk
county,
to somebody, see if they could change that up a little bit?
well, we made some phone calls, and I worked with Clean Commission, and we're trying to tweak that. And the county is not 100% ready for single stream yet either. They're in the early phases. The dumpster across from you, the new one, is a single stream, which means everything dumps in one bin. And they're running that as a test to see about separating it and how it's gonna work. So we're actually in a test phase on that with Keith to see how that's gonna work, how much of it's gonna have to be separated, and what's gonna go through the can. And I think we've seen an improvement in how much the can's filling up. It seems like they're staying better. We're still having to deal with the cardboard one, which we're gonna have to work on.
Let me ask you this, for beautification and Natalie, my wife's talked about this, we're talking about putting we've been looking
Thanks,
for
Tony.
6 months, putting a fence around my can so it looks better.
Right.
I don't like my can sitting out like that, that's why I got a new can. But there are a lot of places where the cans just, we know, can we make a city ordinance where businesses have to have something that shields the can that
We
makes it
could.
look better?
Most of the new apartment complexes and things that we're having come into town are doing some kind of a privacy around the bin, because they don't want it to be seen either. And so we've worked with them on creating, it's something you could require, yes.
I think we should. And I think that'd be nice.
I mean, we could require that as, would have to be in the zoning for commercial, that any commercial dumpster would have to have the,
Yeah. give
But
us
we
a
could
little
do it.
sign, get one of them,
Right.
some names,
Yeah.
and we can, somebody can put something up nice for us.
right.
But you could make it going forward.
Going forward.
You need to do it for all new ones. If you put that expense on your old businesses, I think that's
Well,
kind of
that's-
an
that's-
unfair thing to do.
That's what I was saying, I don't know that you could do it without some opposition making it retroactive.
Right.
We could, like he said, and that'd be something probably, beautification of the city.
Right.
Because, I mean, you get 10 people building apartments or doing whatever they're doing, they may, 9 of them may do it and the one don't, and that may be the very one that everybody's looking at,
Right.
So I think that's something we need to visit in the future.
I think every one of our new ones within the last 2 years have got some sort of privacy panel
Okay.
around the dumpster. So I don't think there's been any new construction on apartments that don't have
Can
it.
you email
Okay.
me someone who could put something up nice around that has done the apartments?
I can
I need
try to get you some information and see if they're,
A lot of other businesses do too.
right.
Okay, so going back to the budget, we're gonna look at the trash truck, is that my understanding? We're gonna relook at it and see, or we're just gonna,
Even if you do a regular commercial truck, you're still talking 300,000 plus, without the Crotto can. The Crotto can was about a $20,000 add-on. That was the reason we went ahead and looked at it, was because for 20,000, even if you can't fit it down every street, you've got a backup automated truck, so.
some of them, okay. All righty. That takes us to Parks and Recreation. Anybody want anything else in that department y'all wanna look at? Okay. That takes us to Parks and Recreation expenses. Contributions to the Putnam County Library. Looks like we've pretty much stayed the same over the last couple of years with that. And I talked to them, I guess, probably a year and a half ago. They were wanting more space. We put a roof on this old city hall up here. Why can we not move them to there? Other than we don't have ramps and may not have parking. That's something I think, we could probably work around that if we have to. But just having it there and moving them somewhere else. They told me, they said, hey, we've got books that we'll put in there. Your library here is a lot smaller than the Monterey
Do something
Library.
about space, Keith.
Well, I didn't mean to use a city name, but a city east of here, they have more computer terminals, they have more books and
Why can't we
audio
get a
stuff.
grant for library?
We talked to the library and they were gonna try to do that. I don't know how much it's gonna cost you to get that old city hall up to code for a library to go in it. I mean, I can try to,
Him tasked to look at
how much
it?
space are you wanting to give them? You want to give them one, there's 3 sections down there basically.
All of it.
Well, we ain't using it right now.
So you wanna give them all 3
Well, give them all
sections?
3 sections.
All
See
right.
what they can bring to us.
I can get the engineer to look at it and tell me what the costs are gonna be to get it up
Maybe
to
have some
spec.
kids go in there and do some studying after school.
Well, you know what? Everything's computerized now. Even our new website. You've got people here in this city that don't have computer, that don't have printers, and you could go right up there, and they've told me over here, say, hey, we've got all kinds of computers we can put in there. If we just had a place to go, we're just too small to do it right
Well,
now.
we need scanners too to scan all our stuff in, all our paperwork. We need to upgrade. We need to get some stuff moving around in the city.
What's your thought, Vice Mayor?
Paper stuff.
Ms. Norris?
If it meet the codes,
Well, you may have to put a little into it to get a bigger return down the road, and that's not something you're gonna see. I put,
overnight.
$1,000 in it, I'm gonna get 2,000 this year. I mean, the advantage of it, you may never see it monetarily, but you would see it,
Let's get it up to
helping.
code.
I'll see what I can come up with.
Okay, because we spent that money to put that roof on there, might as well use it.
Right.
Okay. So we'll put that on, be looking at that. Contribution to the senior citizens. Okay, what do we got there? 6,000, pretty much the same thing we've had.
It
right?
is. Mhm.
Okay. Utilities, pretty much staying the same, ain't it?
We're hoping to see it come down. We put those new heat and air units in there
Okay.
last year, and it looks like it's come down a little bit. We're still watching it close to make sure, but we're hoping to see that number come down some more.
Okay. Repair and maintenance to buildings, P&R activities. We've spent how much this time?
43,000, that was the rail trail completion money.
Got it. Okay, all right.
And that money is not in there except for the upkeep to the trail
Right.
authority for what they have to
Okay.
do.
All right. Operating supplies are low. Grant expense. Nothing in there for that. Insurance. Okay. Anything else on that one? Take two. State Street Aid. Okay. We got questions about that one?
Keith, what portion of our street upgrades comes from the street aid fund?
In the past, it's been very minimal. We've got $360,000 in that account right now.
Mhm.
And that was what we were gonna use, the $330,000 to work on this Main Street section, to try to get it up and get it fixed. Get the washboard rub down at Walmart out of the street, and upgrade those loops that keep breaking, and get them fixed good. The our street lights, of course, come out of this fund as well.
So the money you're saying that this 330 right here was gonna pull from the
From the
street analysis?
street account, yeah.
Okay. All right. How many streetlights you looking at? Is that just doing Main? Is it right
No,
there?
the street lights are every street light in town. That
Yeah.
covers your investment, your monthly fees for keeping them on, repairs, all that Upper Cumberland Electric cost is figured into that street light.
Okay, your sidewalk improvements that we've got right here, we've got that, I guess, somewhere in like capital outlay, what we had talked about
We do,
doing.
it's in Public Works.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Upper Cumberland, whenever they have to change a light, they're going to the newer LED style lights, or?
I don't know if they've completely switched yet. I know Phil Ballinger was doing, excuse me, a test on the lights to see what the LEDs were gonna do. I'm pretty sure, assuming that test goes well, that they will start switching to those, but I don't know what the status of that is.
Okay.
Any other discussion on that budget sheet? Brings us to drug fund revenue. What can PD use that for?
Anything related to drug purchases or a single one-time purchase of equipment or items like that. We did purchase the new rifles out of that money this year. There's still a little bit in there that we can use to try to get some more computers or something else. Chief, did you want to say something to that?
So can your computers come out of that? How many did you need?
Don't know yet, sir. We're still looking at that. For sure, 3. and we've already got those purchased. It's just a matter of whether or not you want to complement, put one in each patrol car or not, you know. The only benefit to that I would see is it cuts down on wear and tear, pulling them in and out of vehicles, swapping them out.
What's the cost that you're looking at right now? I mean, without revisiting your budget, that we discussed,
Cost for
per computer?
per computer. We piggybacked on a bid. We bought 3, were those 1,800 apiece?
Laptops?
Yeah, something like that.
Something
They're
like that, yeah.
specialized tough.
Must be top notch. How top notch is that? That's expensive.
It's one of those like tough book things.
It's made for,
It's made
For
for,
lease
you know,
work.
Lease
heavy
work, yeah.
use and that kind of
Gonna
thing.
need
Yes,
to
sir.
be that.
Yeah.
So you got it for 1,800, is that what
I
you said?
believe that's what's on the bid, yeah. I don't have that in front of me.
Those weren't refurbished, were they?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, and then we got the drug fund expense. You can see where those things have been used and what we've got there. City cemetery revenue, I think that pretty much set right there.
Keith, should we repaint the cemetery again? I know we did it 4 years ago.
it's holding up good. I mean, the seals look good. It's
Yeah.
still,
Okay.
I think we're in good shape on that. One thing we did put in here was mapping out the cemetery to get a full outlay of the old section that we don't currently have. And we do have the new section mapped out and ready to start selling. We've completed that. And so I think we're progressing over there. The council is going to have to look at putting some members back on that board. I know with Cliff Rainey's passing, there's a vacancy. And I believe there may be one other one that the council needs to fill. So those will have to be filled as well.
Okay. All righty.
How do we go about filling that?
Just need to figure out who you want to put in it.
Okay, we don't put who wants to be on this board right here?
You don't have to.
You could do it by nomination.
I would
Simple
ask that
nomination.
you consider at least offering it to Cliff's wife, Joyce, maybe, since he did so many years' service. I think it would be an honor to her to offer at least her the opportunity if she'd like to serve in his
You spoke
absence.
to her about see if she
I haven't, but I can do that if y'all wish for me to do that.
Keith, the other day when we stopped up at Imogene, she was talking to Lloyd about that, and she's gonna ask Joyce about
Okay.
being on there.
Oh, okay. All right.
And then council would still need to come up with, I think, one more, but I'll check the numbers and make sure.
Well,
Okay.
that mapping system is a good idea too, because a lot of the records may exist or may not exist
Right.
and things like that, so, and a lot of the folks who've been on that board or been in town for a long time, you know, sometimes you lose sight of where people are actually, and, you know, that information it disappears, so the mapping part of it will be a good idea going
Yeah.
forward.
Another thing too is Leonard Livingston, who did the flags for Memorial Day every year, has gotten to the age that he didn't feel like he could do that, and the Boy Scouts are going to pick that up and start doing that now. So
Okay. That brings us down to the revenue of the city cemetery and also the expenses of the city cemetery. We're in discussion on either one of those. Okay. I have one more on mine, water and sewer.
Yep.
That's pretty much set by itself, by its expenses.
yeah, it's kind of hard to
Sustains itself.
adjust it
Mhm.
because it's a self-supported fund. And so we try to adjust those numbers where we can and make sure we're being equitable and trying to split things off the way we need to. So
On this, speaking of the water and sewer, on our proposed plan for the water line upgrades on Main Street and everything else, how does that factor in with this particular budget here?
it's figured in there. It would come out of the money that's been set aside in years past to do project upgrades. So that money's figured in there. One thing I did figure in this year too, we're going to have new handhelds for the meter reading. The ones we've got are out of date. They're getting in bad shape. Company says there's nothing else they can do for them. Those two handhelds, to replace them, are $25,000
For both of them?
together. We were looking at the automated meter reader system again, and somebody told us that you could do it for less than $100,000, but I don't think that's the case. I've talked to our engineer, and he said he didn't think you could come anywhere near that. So,
Because we have to swap every one of the
Right.
meters out, right?
right, you'd have to put them all, swap them all out, and that's a pretty big expense. One thing he did say is when you do that swap out, if you're going to invest that much, the best thing to do is to swap the whole service from the core at the main line to the service line, because he said if you're going to find a leak, it's going to be at that corp at the main. And he said that makes the most difference in your water loss. But I think getting the handhelds is going to be a start. It's not a major expense. And I don't know if y'all have considered or not. We've got an employee at Public Works that does the meter reading. It is potential. A lot of other cities bid out the meter reading service so that a service is responsible for that instead of us. So I don't know if that's something you all want to consider, or if you want to leave it the way it is where we just do it. Another thing I put in here too is a line camera system to run up the sewer lines and look for infiltration to try to keep us from getting stormwater and line breakdowns, and help us find blockages. And if we can't find a lateral, we can run this up and find that lateral. But it's just a camera system to do that.
What's the price on that?
I put 40,000 in there. I've heard prices from 5,000 to 60,000, so I'm not sure where we'll land on that. We're gonna have to get some people to come in and bring us one and let us test it and see what we're gonna need. Definitely don't want to spend any more than I have to. I don't think we need a $60,000 camera to do that, but
Okay.
so that's the water sewer project. Talked to Matthew about that, and USDA is working on that. So hopefully, he thinks maybe by summer we should be able to bid the project and start moving forward with that.
Okay. So you're gonna get some folks in here to show us the cameras? Is that what
We'll have
the
'em-
plan is?
I'm gonna
Yeah.
have them come in and run the cameras for Victor and I, and show us what they can do, and then we'll put together a bid packet for you, and then we'll bid it out and see what comes back, and then we'll present you what we find.
So somebody to sit and watch the camera all day long?
No, we'll take it and run it up a lateral and look at what it can do and what kind of recording it can give us, and how difficult it is to use, and how far it runs, and what does it run on, and
Is it just what, a camera that looks at what?
up a sewer line without you having to actually,
To see where
Dig it
roots
out.
come in, maybe cross where lines cross and stuff like that. It's more of a diagnostic tool where if they have an issue, maybe it's not running, they could run that camera up there and say, oh, there's a big root come through here. That's
camera
what
run
it is.
into the pipe.
Run
Right, yeah,
into the
you-
pipe.
you go to a sewer
Yeah.
manhole and you run it up the pipe, and if it's raining and you look up through there and you see water pouring into the pipe, you've got a problem, so.
Oh,
Yeah. So it's more of a diagnostic thing. This, going back a little bit, just backwards, this step raise stuff that we looked at, that's something that would have to come in a regular budget, a regular council meeting.
Yeah,
rather
you
than
would need to
this
vote
one.
on it. Well, it's part of the budget.
I know it is,
And
and
so-
we gotta decide what you're gonna do
And
there.
if you all don't want it, then I just pull it back out and we set it aside.
Of course, we gave some employees already their raises, when they
Right.
divided duties. That's not including them into this here, is that?
Yeah, it puts them wherever they're at on that scale, based on whatever they're at.
Well, they've already got one big raise. Some of them did.
Well, I can pull
Some
that back
did.
out.
Some did. You see what I'm
I
saying?
didn't give myself a raise. I mean,
But
I'm
do
not in that, so my rate's the same as whatever y'all set it at,
Oh, okay.
so.
Well, we had some others, like downstairs, I know that they take on some extra duties,
Right.
and I think we more than compensated them for that. I just want to make sure that we're not double paying
Okay,
for the ones that should have. So we want to look at that
right.
and make sure that that's not an issue. And see, we want to make sure we're fair to both sides.
Right.
Things that I've got made notes here that we're holding on right now. as we're looking at the retirement stuff, but that's not something that's a big hole because we can't do anything about it till January 2018. But we won't want to wait to the last minute to try to find out that information. Also, the sewer cameras, we're waiting to get information on that. And the garbage truck, we're going to look at that to see what we need. I think is that the only thing that we're holding on right now that y'all, or is there something else in the budget that maybe I've forgotten?
I think that's it. I had a question.
How do you want me to address these hold items in the budget? Do you want me to cut them out and you go back and add them? Because I'd like to have this, I've got to sit down and come up with the state ordinance to have ready by June 6th. I'd like to get it to you for review.
What do you suggest?
Well, on the commercial truck, now you've already laid that capital outlay note in there. And you
Right.
said we're looking at least 300 no matter what.
Right.
I'd say just leave that one where it's at.
I would
Just
leave that
it.
where it
You
is
ain't gotta
as
touch
far as
it.
your capital outlay.
Okay.
And if we decide to go with something that's a little smaller, you've still got the capital there to take care of it, so.
Right.
And it just roll back.
My question was, and I don't mean to get off point here, but do we have, since the city of Allgood does purchase from Cookville, do we have any indication that water rates will rise this year?
We've asked, I haven't gotten an answer of yes. So I assume they're staying where they're at right now.
Okay.
Okay.
And we did have that tap-free fee ordinance I gave you all that we looked at increasing sewer taps and water taps by a little bit. We started out at a higher number and you all said, let's back it off. So I went back and redid that. Do you all have any input on that? I changed it to where it
Raise
was
'em.
like just
Make
$100.
some money for the city, for the people.
Again, that's the utility fund too, so
Yeah.
that's the water sewer fund, so.
Yeah, we had to raise them some. That seemed like a big jump there, and that's why most of us had said, and you were there with us.
Well, the cost of materials alone required that.
Well, yeah,
Because
we had
the
to.
cost of meters and the parts that they're made with have
Right.
skyrocketed too, so.
Right. Fire hall, we're still holding on that because we're in final phases of the.
Last she told me we were 98% complete, architecture's done, they're waiting on a final release from the engineer, and then she'll have a plan for you.
Okay.
And when are we starting the water out through the main, right through here that we?
That'll be included with the sewer project, so the sewer will go in, and the water right behind it.
Okay.
And then once that's done, we can do those street light upgrades or whatever you all were wanting to do down through there.
Okay.
That's also one of the holding points. I've been wanting to do a sidewalk from the post office parking lot down to the park that's over here. And I don't want to do that till we get that water line in because you don't want to tear it back up. But as soon as we get that done, we'd like to put a sidewalk down through there as well.
Okay. All righty. Anything, now, when I said that about the ones downstairs that took on extra duties
Right.
and their raises, I think that was all public, what we gave them. We wanted to be fair to them. We didn't want them to be doing extra work. Was there anybody else, other than you and the rest of, is anybody else that got raises in the city at that time that wasn't approved by the council?
I've given David Judd a raise, trying to keep him here for the meter reading. That's the only other raise I've given at this time.
And he was going to a fire department, you said.
He's got another job offer somewhere out of town for something fire department.
We applied. I don't know that the offer was written in stone that he was to get that. So I think we need to research that and find out. What if, I don't want every other employee here to say,
Right.
hey, I got a better job offer. I'm going to leave if you don't give me more money.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right, I
Because
understand.
the understanding is out there on that side of it wasn't written in stone. That was just, he was one of the candidates that could have been offered that position. So we want to make sure that that was the thing, that he had that job.
Right.
And he was going to leave. But then again, like I've said before, as the mayor here, and I don't think any of the city council, I wouldn't think, would disagree that as elected officials, we're not going to be held hostage by our employees. We want to treat them right. We want to be
Right.
fair. But if your employees feel like they need to go somewhere, we appreciate your service. We hate to see you leave, but so everybody has to do what's right for them and their families. I just want to make sure that raise there that you just said had, if, and I can find out facts about it, so we'll be looking at that. Any other information?
Not from me.
Okay. Okay, something I didn't do the last time, I didn't ask if there's any public comment, and I don't know if that's on there, but we're gonna offer it anyway. Does anybody in the audience like to speak on the budget? Okay, Mr. Woods?
Okay, Scott, you guys mentioned something about the library for park and recreation using the building. I concur that we need more, literatures, computers, and that sort of stuff. My concern is, are we, the city, because they, being Parks and Recs in Cookeville, are we gonna have to do upgrades, particularly for handicap? And then the other thing is that when you start getting into handicap, because if my memory serves me, you're right there on the street, but you have a big step up to get into the building, and then you've got on the backside of it, and you also have a parking issue if a lot of people use it. And my only concern from a citizen is, if these guys want to use it and we can lease it out to them, fine. Let them do some of the upgrades if they have to do it rather than us.
Now, are you talking about leasing it to the library? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think
We don't
that-
lease
I
to the
think-
library. We put in a portion like every other city does here, and the library is a service that they provide to our city
Okay.
because we put into it. Now, looking at your analogy, should we keep them in a broom closet just because we don't want to do anything else? I mean, I don't agree with that.
No.
I think we should make things more available and services, increase our services to our citizens here.
Now that I agree with. What I did not know and not aware of is that what I don't want to see is the city get stuck with having to do a lot of major stuff that hasn't been done because of federal regulations,
Right.
and I understand that.
Right.
And that was my only concern. And then I don't know, I know Keith said he was going to get his engineer to look at and find out, how much more that's going to kick our budget up.
I think, Dr. Hurd, did you want to speak on that?
We should do that anyway. My brother's in a wheelchair. He's been in a wheelchair 15 years, and it's nice to have availability. When I'm 80 years old living up on Brothers Mountain, it'd be nice for me to kind of come down and drive and park and get out of my wheelchair where my little walker and walk up to the little library there and sit down and look at the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to put a wheelchair ramp in, let's knock out that concrete,
Mm-hmm.
put your form up and report.
Oh, yeah. No, it's just that what I was looking at is not knowing some of the background. That's what I was
Yes,
concerned with.
yes.
Because it's like, I don't mind providing citizens with services. I understand we have to do handicap, but,
Yeah.
so be it.
Okay.
The other thing that I would like to make a pitch for, once you get through, but in your deliberations, particularly for the retirement fund, once you get through all that, and I know you're still researching that, is I would like to see our current employees, the ones that we currently have on board, if we continue on the path with what we have, not forcing them to put in. However, anybody that comes on that's new after the date you either set the budget or whatever, then yeah, I have no problem with new employees, having to kick in, because your contract with the employees, it's like, it's a contract with them. You're gonna work for us. This is what we're gonna give you. This is what you have to pay. And that's the only thing that I look at from that. The other thing.
Let me respond to that.
Uh,
Let me respond to that.
Oh,
That,
okay.
that contract right there, my employer doesn't yield to that. Mine changes, my retirement changes, and that's set up on the state's budget. So just because I hired in at this, I don't get to keep that. When the General Assembly says that I have to go with this, I take what they got because they're looking at the total budget. So, the contract, I don't think that we can, that's a binding contract, so to speak. It's what you call in a contract, is a literal contract.
Right. The other thing is that I do agree that I think the city should go to your city pay scale. Because
when you do that, that eliminates a lot of other issues, because basically what it tells me as a citizen is that if I have a quality employee and I keep them for, I guess the scale runs for what, 15 years, Keith, something like that?
10.
10 years.
Is it 10? Okay, it runs to 10 years. Okay, if they decide to stay with the city and they get capped out at that, then I know as a citizen that, okay, we're not gonna have big jumps in, you know, for the cost of the employee. In other words, once you get a quality, you know, and people that like to work, you know, for the city, because there are people that are very dedicated civil servants, you know, and whether they use a shovel or whether they, you know, type at a computer doesn't make any difference. But the thing about it is, I'd just like to put my plug in that, you know, that you guys do go to that, because it will be easier, I think, in the future for trying to do budgets, because I know on pay scales, and I don't know what the, every so often, if you do a good job, you get what they call a quality in-service step. I just don't know what the frame, but if you have a list of your employees, this is what they get, this is the step they're at, then you know that, okay, you're gonna have some that are gonna be outstanding performers, you give them that. Other people, you may decide, no, we're not gonna give you that. Other people, instead of giving them a QSI, sometimes they will just give them a bonus or an award. I mean, this gives you more flexibility, I think, in your budget, and it also gives your managers flexibility. Because just because you've got the pay scale, it doesn't mean that you have to award that person, but at least you have something to go with. Those are my comments, and I appreciate your time.
Right. Something else that come to mind, Keith, did we get the study back from MTASC yet on our police department?
They're gonna meet with us June the 6th to set that up. We
To
just got notice.
Set up the study
Yeah,
for
it's
it?
gonna take a little time to complete. I mean, it's not gonna happen overnight, so.
Okay. Did we get cut back to, on the overtime? I know Chief's back there. I'm sorry, Miss Bennett. Give me just 1 second. I got a short mind. I'm trying to remember stuff so I don't forget it. It'll get away from me. Yeah, I am going backwards.
Did you get a $1,000 increase in your deductible on your insurance this year?
Yes, I did.
I thought so.
I did. Yeah. Okay. Now, our overtime, did you make cuts in that?
Keith revised the budget. Looks like he put the overtime at 8,000, is that right?
Cut it back. Okay.
Yeah.
Want to make sure too, and I'm sure MTASC will address this issue, that we're not spending overtime. If we've got the officers to do it, let's make sure that our crime rate numbers are there as well, not just putting overtime out to increase motivation. That's poor management. I'd say that to anybody, and that may not be you, that may be in the practice, you know, the last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. I don't know, but I don't know another employer that would say, well, because you're less motivated, I'm going to throw some overtime out there so you can work it. I'm looking at it on this side of the desk,
Right.
you know, and I
And you may have misunderstood, you know.
I may have.
It wasn't an effort necessarily to motivate. It was an effort to both, you know, bring down crime, you know, increase, you know, officers' presence during, you know, peak hours and high crime areas. You know.
Right. Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And you'll get our updated numbers, right, on from what I would like to see, and I'm sure the rest of the council would, from where what was our initial budget that was presented to us versus what we are now. So I want to see a difference in what we cut out completely.
I'll have the new budget sheet ready for you pretty soon, and I'll PDF it and send it to you in an email.
That'd be fine. Ms. Bennett?
I'm all about citizens' benefits, you know that. But on your library,
Yes, ma'am.
do you have a librarian hired for so many hours a day?
That's something that they do over there. They do that, and we just make the contributions. They decide, and they said that wouldn't be a problem when I talked to those members there.
If you moved?
If we moved somewhere else, they said they would. They would.
And the So you have to have somebody there with those computers.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can't just turn the kids loose.
Oh, no, no,
The
no,
kids
no,
might
they'd
need
be
to
somebody
use-
there.
Yeah,
And they even said, if you guys give us a bigger place where we can offer more, we'll have some folks there.
that'd be good.
So
That'd be great.
so we'll have somebody there.
That's good.
Also, I want to let the council know too as well, I spoke with Tommy Copeland. We had talked about the ambulance service building in their section. Wasn't sure where that was coming. That's going to be coming out of their budget, not our budget.
All right.
So I just wanted to confirm that because we couldn't pin anybody down to say, yeah, that's what we're going to do. So I done spoke to him, and they've got with the roofing department over there in maintenance, building maintenance, and they're going to cover that, he said.
Oh, I thought we were worried about the utilities.
We were, and that's why I said, is the utilities where the county built those buildings in
Right.
each one of these cities. And in doing so, then the municipalities would pay their utilities.
Right.
I didn't want to build their building and do their utilities too. And in speaking with him, he said, oh, no, 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 that's fine. He said, that's not a problem. He said, and he even offered to start taking like their phone and all that, those stuff too. So that's another savings that he said that they would put into their budget.
Just a minute while I got it on my mind.
Okay.
Keith, didn't we talk about something, building on over at the community center there at one time?
We did, we talked about closing in that drive-through section,
Drive-through.
adding it on the library. We'd also tried to look at taking over that closet over there and trying to get it turned into double the library space as well. The library had even called and asked about if they would put in a glass door, would that be okay? So it was more open and welcoming, and I told them that was fine. So we were looking at some options, but I'll get you the old City Hall number 2 so you can kind of look at all of it and see where we're at.
Just what we can do the best we can do for the less money,
right.
you know, and still offer the best we can to the citizens.
That we can for them.
We
Yep.
can do better than we're doing right now. on
Well,
the
I agree.
library.
I agree. But I think, at the end of the day, by the time we bring that building up to codes, and hey, it's a great place because it's owned by the city, it's not being used, it's open space. But I think those costs are gonna drive it pretty high.
What's gonna happen if we don't do anything to it, that building?
Well, we spent money to put a roof on it. Why would we spend why would we have done that if we ain't gonna use it?
We're just gonna look at it?
We're just gonna look at it.
Turn it into a dentist office.
I hope not.
I didn't see that coming, sorry. Okay, Mr. Norris, go ahead.
I just wanted to address the council on one issue. My issue, I would like to see the council on this budget, if any way possible, integrate some children's equipment, playground equipment for these young children in this town. They don't have nowhere to play. And just like this young man back here,
Right.
he ain't got nowhere to go over in this park and play on anything. We've got a little park right over here that's got areas they can put a couple of pieces of equipment over there. We've got a big area down here at the ballpark in front of that bandstand that could be fenced in and put some equipment down there for those kids to play on. Keep them out of that gully, you know.
Right.
Put a portable fence.
Well,
there.
we got a sinkhole over here. We need to do something about that. It's 10
Is
feet
that a
deep right now.
sinkhole or a drain?
It's a cave and somebody's gonna fall in there eventually.
It's actually on private property though, I mean, it's
Yeah.
not.
So we can't.
I don't-
Here's what we had talked about, and I
Somebody's
don't,
gonna get hurt.
I don't know if you were here that night or not. We talked about a campaign of Beautify All Good. We're gonna take some of our surplus money. We're gonna find a park property here. We've got a committee that's gonna look for property. They're gonna come to us, and as a city, we're, well, did you not put one on there?
Not as of yet.
Well, that's what, I sent you the email to say,
Yeah, I asked, they haven't given me nominations.
yeah, we were trying, but now, if you've got somebody, send them over. Let's get them on the committee.
I'll send them on to Keith then.
Yeah, we don't wanna,
Okay.
Carolyn, did you send somebody on? Okay, let's get that done.
I'm working on it.
Okay, let's get that done, because we've got, I think, 2 people on there now.
We do. We have
Got-
Mr. Roger Williams for Dr. Hurd and Mr. David Maynard for Mayor Bilber.
And we're gonna try to find the property, Lloyd. We're gonna try to find property for that. We're gonna put this park in that the kids here in Allgood need and deserve.
Well, is that gonna be a centrally located area?
It's gonna be here somewhere. We're gonna try to find the property. We first have to get our committee established, then we have to take and find out what the council wants or the citizens want, and then when we send that committee out, say, look, find this property, find the property, these are the standards that we want, and with that going, they'll know what the property's worth, they'll know what we can give for it, and we'll find a place to do that. That's in the works, I want you to know that.
Correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're talking about what can we do in the meantime between now and then, because at best case scenario, if we started today, we're still a year out away from that, even,
Okay.
or more coming to fruition, okay? So I think he's asking, what can we do now?
Yeah, just,
I think the council needs to look at maybe a couple of pieces of playground equipment now
okay,
for the children.
okay,
Then when you find a park or create a park, you can always move that
move it,
equipment.
okay, all righty, I guess I misunderstood what you were saying. Have you got contacts with, you reckon Parks and Recreation would have something stowed back somewhere that we could use till we could furnish our park? I mean, I
Cool City
don't,
might even have something down there.
who?
Cool City.
Oh,
That's a possibility I can ask. and
can you
see.
check?
Yes.
He'll check into that.
Something good. I mean, we don't put some junk piled up over.
Oh, yeah, I understand. Of course, you know, here's the thing we don't want to do is to get like an old swing set and put it in a brand-new park.
No.
You know what I'm saying? But this would do till then, you know,
As long
so,
as we're gonna be safe for the kids to be on.
sure. Okay.
Okay,
All
thank you.
right, Keith will check into that.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Is there anybody else?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Make a motion, adjourn. All right.
Second.
Motion second.